And what inspired your acting career? How did it all begin for you? Where did it all start? And how did it start?
Such a long story, but I'm gonna try to cut it short. I was actually initially I am still a musician. So I'm a classical clarinetist. And I was training as a clarinetist at Juilliard School of Music. And at a certain point, I realized I didn't want to sit in an orchestra for the rest of my life. And at the time that I was thinking of this, I didn't know why or anything, but looking back in retrospect, eventually I realized that I just felt like I had more to give, more to share, trying to figure out, who am I reaching with my clarinet and so I decided to take an acting class. And part of that was because I was inspired by the Juilliard drama department. I would always go and see their productions. Let me go like this. I
Yeah,
would always go and see their drama productions. Oh man, hold on.
you're all good.
And
You
so
can rest. Yeah,
at a
yeah.
certain point, it just dawned on me. I'm like, hey, maybe this means something.
Mm,
I'm going to see all their drama productions. So I went and I took an acting class and I dug it.
mm,
I enjoyed it. And I'm like, wow, I can really do so much more through acting than I felt like I could through clarinet and through the horn.
mm.
So I kept taking acting classes. Eventually, I booked my first role. It was a starring role in a film called Straight Outta Brooklyn. It was an independent movie, and it went to Sundance, and it won at Sundance. And that was my foot in the door. That's how I got in. And then I went back to school to study some more because I didn't feel like I was a strong enough actor. Like, I just felt there was more to learn.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
went back and trained some more and then got out. And, it's been the actor life ever
Mm.
since.
Do you think the learning ever ends with acting, or do you think it's constant learning within that?
Never ends. You're
Yeah.
always learning, you're always growing, you're always, I mean, I love now I'm one of the older cats in the business. I've been around, but I was going to say that I used to love reading, even still reading articles with older actors who say things like, whenever I'm up on stage or whenever I'm in front of the camera, I'm still just trying not to suck.
No,
So
you're a
you
very good
never
actor.
yeah, you never get to that point where you're just feeling totally comfortable. Like, you have, if you studied the technique of it, then you have your craft and you know the things to do, but you're always just trying to be good and be right and tell the story the best that you can, always.
Mm,
And as a part of doing that is to constantly learn,
mm,
constantly try to just take in as much information as you can. That's going to help you to grow, and you never know when you're going to need it. It's all about putting tools in your toolbox so that
mm,
whenever you need the tool, it's there and available
of course.
for you.
Yeah, I mean, do you prefer roles that challenge you emotionally or physically, or what kind of genre do you prefer?
There's
Between the
no
both.
genre. There's no genre that I prefer. I
Mm,
just like telling good stories.
mm,
For me, no matter what the project is, whenever I start, I always think to myself, this character actually exists somewhere in the world,
mm,
and it is my job to do some justice to this person and to this character, to tell their story,
mm,
because somebody's gonna watch it, and hopefully that person is gonna relate to it, and hopefully I can teach them in some way, educate them in some way, help them get through, overcome some adversity. Just something. I can move them, I can touch them, and help in some sort of way. To me, it's never just this is a character. To me, it's always this is an actual person somewhere.
mm.
Somewhere has gone through this existence or is going through this existence. So that's what motivates me, really. There is no specific genre. I mean, I would think if, like, let's say, for example, I got a part in a Marvel movie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And, I'm playing some hero or some villain. Like, for something like that, it's fictional, right? But there are people in the world who want to be helpful, who want to be helpful to society, who want to help people, so you have to tap into that thing. if you're a villain, there's people in the world who want to do harm, who want to, hurt people, who want to. So you have to tap into that thing. So even though it's fictional, there's still people in the world who feel a certain way.
Mm,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well, I mean, I know you covered a bit of it already, but what do you look for in a script when deciding to take on a role then, on the reading side of things?
You know, for me, a long time ago, Sam Jackson said something. He was like, actors are like prostitutes. We'll do anything
Mm,
for the work. We need to. And if you look at Sam's career, he did a lot. He's done a lot. I
mm,
remember there was a time in his career where it seemed like he just said no to. I mean, he said yes to everything. It felt like he never said no. It's it's not about looking at roles. Like some people have the luxury of looking and being able to decide what they want to do. 99.9% of actors don't have that luxury.
mm,
When an opportunity comes, we have to take advantage of it. And it's about us justifying whatever it is that we're doing and trying to make it real. It doesn't matter. Like at a certain point, it's out of our hands what happens to the project,
mm,
right? It's going to be in the hands of the director, the producers, the editors, and everyone else. All we can do is bring whatever character we're playing,
to the
do it
screen.
justice, and bring it to life the best that we can.
Mm,
That's it. And then collect our paychecks, right?
mm,
And we have to make it fun for ourselves. We have to love it, enjoy what we're doing. We do all those things. Once we do those things, it's out of our hands. So no matter what project comes to me, I'm going to try to make it fun for me. I'm going to try to make it real for me. I'm going to try to enjoy it for
mm,
me. Because I don't have the luxury to be like, I want this one or that one or this one.
mm. Yeah, no, of
It's just
course.
not like that. You know what I mean?
I mean, speaking of that, I mean, you've portrayed a lot of different characters from The Wire, and in The Walking Dead. How do you
Mm-hmm.
approach like the transition from a show like The Wire to a zombie apocalypse? How do you transition from each show?
Yeah. Well, like I said, for me, it's about trying to get into the get into who the character is. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what the world is that he's in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it's. I mean, the Wire, of course, realistic, a real show. You know,
Mm,
um, Walking Dead, fictional show, right? But the people in the shows are real people.
mm,
And that's my whole point. It doesn't matter what world we're playing in. What matters is what the character is going through.
mm,
Whether it's a comedy or whether it's a drama, all that matters is what the character is going through because you're telling a story in whatever world this is. You're telling the story about, emotional stories about, you know, people going through whatever they're going through, divorces, people
mm,
going through family drama, people going through drama at work. It doesn't matter if they're working on a spaceship or if they're working in a food bank or if they're working
mm,
in a church. It doesn't matter where they're working. They're going through some type of emotional
mm,
traumas or dramas or whatever it is that they're going through.
mm.
And
Wow.
so for me, yeah, it's about finding out what this character wants, what this character needs, what this character's past,
Mm,
the background of the character. And at the end of the day, it's really about where's this character going? What does he need?
mm,
What is he trying to get? Because for me personally, I believe life is all about us all trying to achieve our needs,
mm,
get the things that we need so that we can be happy. So what does this character need? And where did this character come from? And what does this character need to go through to get to, you know,
yeah.
to get the things that he needs to be happy in life?
Yeah.
If that's possible, if it's even possible.
Yeah, I mean, you seem like you know how to connect with a character. So on a more deeper level, how would you go around that, connecting to a character that you portray?
It's well, it's a lot about it's different things, and different people do different things. You know what I mean? When you're in the business long enough, and like I said, you keep learning and you keep growing. Your toolbox changes. You build it, and it changes, and you end up finding your own kind of methods, and
Mm,
techniques.
mm,
You take things from different places and you make it your own. But for me, it's a lot of me creating a background story for the character. things you will probably never see on screen, but that's going to help me to make the character real. If I know if this character, had a dog when he was growing up as a kid, if this character grew up in a 2-parent household or a single parent household, you may never see his parents on screen. You may never know this stuff,
Yeah.
What kind of school did he attend? Whatever, just all the background information that you have to build. That's what helps me to build a character. And then oftentimes what I'll also do is for physical stuff, I'll think about people that I know. And this is why it's important to, as an actor, to never stop growing, never stop trying to learn and to grow, always people watch, always watch, physical characteristics of people. Because what I'll often do is I'll take someone who I know, if I read a character and I'll think, oh, this reminds me of my cousin so-and-so is like this, or this reminds me of Uncle Johnny or whatever. I may take some characteristics from that person to add to the character. So that's how I generally
That's a good observation, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you do. That's how I generally do physical stuff. I'll try to think, I won't try it. Like it'll pop into my mind as I'm reading a thing. I go, oh, this reminds me of my cousin Curtis, or this reminds me of, whoever it is.
Okay.
My cousin Jonathan, my friend so-and-so, whatever. And then I'll take some characteristics from that person. I may even try to do a little, thing with my voice or laugh like them, whatever it is.
Yeah.
To try to do a physical thing to bring to the character. But all of the emotional and other background stuff is just me writing a lot about building this character's history. So that it becomes real in me.
Wow. I mean, has the connection ever stayed with you after filming? Like, have you ever has it ever stayed with you after filming a connection with a character?
I'm sorry?
Has the connection ever stayed with you after filming for a character? Yeah.
It does. It sticks around for a little while. It depends on how long you're in that character, how much you're doing it. When you're in it for a long time, it doesn't just, fade away. Eventually, over time it starts to fade away, but it's still in your body. You know what I mean? Depending on how much you're doing it, it stays with you for a little while. I did a play, Top Dog Underdog, which is one of those things I look back and I'm very proud of. I did it with Harold Perrineau. We did a West Coast tour of it back in the day. And at the end of that play, I played the younger brother. He played the older brother. It's just two brothers in the whole story, in the whole play. At the end of the play, the younger brother kills the older brother. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Top Dog Underdog.
Okay, no, I haven't, to be fair.
Okay,
it's a show that I need to put on the list.
Well, it's a play.
Yeah.
It's a play.
Oh, okay.
So, maybe the play will come to near where you one
never
day,
know. Yeah.
But at the end of the play, the younger brother kills the older brother. And you can imagine that's very emotional. They were the only two that each other had. And the younger brother sort of snaps for a reason and then kills his older brother. And then he goes on this rant and then realizes what he's done. So you can imagine that's the end of the play. That's the final scene. You can imagine that you have some emotions. You take some of that away when you leave the theater. Like it doesn't just, So I had to do things. You have to do things to decompress. I had to listen to certain types of music because I couldn't take that home to my family at the time, But you have to do things to decompress, to bring yourself down, to bring yourself out of it. Because like I said, you don't want to take it home. Now, different actors work different ways. I did a movie called Gangs of New York where I got to work with Daniel Day-Lewis and Leonardo DiCaprio and Cameron Diaz, and I got to watch them work. And, watching Daniel Day-Lewis, who's in character all the time, I never really met Daniel Day-Lewis until we were 2 weeks from finishing shooting.
Oh, wow.
He started to come out of it and he was still sort of in it, but that's when I started to meet the real Daniel Day-Lewis. Meanwhile, Leo, they would just say action and he would just turn it on. Like he would turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah, he would know how to switch. Yeah.
So different actors have different techniques, work different ways. Some live with it and have to then, release it slowly. Some just turn it on and turn it off. I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle. I do know about myself that if I'm not fully tuned in, that when they say cut, if I'm not fully tuned in, then my mind I'll go other places and then it'll be tough for me to get back in it when they say action. So I'm not a turn off, turn on guy. I try to keep as close to the character as possible although it may not seem like it when I'm on set, but I try to internally, I'm keeping as close to the character as possible when I'm
Mm.
doing it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, how did you prefer? How did you prepare? I can't talk today. How did you prepare for? How did you prepare for Bob's backstory and struggles? Because he was on a deep level, weren't he, as well?
Yeah.
You had quite a
I
lot of
love Bob. I love
yeah.
Bob. Bob has a special place in my heart, and the thing that so I here's what's funny is Bob was an alcoholic.
Mm,
I don't drink, never have.
okay.
So I don't know anything at all really about what that feels like. I think I was drunk maybe once in my life. I had a drink. Someone offered me a drink. I hadn't eaten any food, and I got very silly to the point of I guess I was being obnoxious, and I didn't even realize it.
Okay. Okay.
That
Yeah.
was my one drunk moment. But so because I have no real experience with what that feels like, um, for me, I had to tap into, you know, anyone dealing with any kind of addiction, it's all about self-love, right?
Mm,
It's about how much you love yourself.
yeah.
If you love yourself enough to not want to do the things that are going to cause harm to you and to other people.
Mm,
You know what I mean? um, so that's the kind of stuff I'm more leaned into. Not so much like the physical stuff of being drunk and all that stuff. That's just physicality stuff. But hurting people and hurting yourself, that's something that everyone, I think, at a certain point in your life, in your life or at your life, you can think about times that you've done wrong things and you've hurt someone. And what does that mean? And why did you do these things? And if, most of us don't constantly repeat those actions, but if you did constantly repeat those actions, what does that mean? Why do you do these things? What are you saying? What are you running from? Why are you trying to get away from? What are you hiding? What are you covering up? What's hurting so bad? You know what I mean? So you
mm,
start asking yourself all those questions. What's hurting so bad that I need to do something that's gonna take me away from it, that's gonna cover it up, that's gonna push it down and push it away. And we all have those things. If we dig deep, deep down inside, we know that there's things that have happened to us or we have done that we want to just erase, forget about. We push it deep down, right?
mm,
That didn't happen. I don't want to think about that stuff. We push it down. And what I did, or what I do, is I just think about those things compounded, compounded, compounded.
mm.
You
Okay.
know, like to push all those things down, push all those things down, push all those things down. What would happen to me? And so that's kind of how I got to Bob. I'm like, all right, here's a guy who he's suffering. He suffered through these things. He had to push these things, push these things, push these things down. And, this is what he does so that
Mm,
he can cope with all the
yeah.
things that he's pushed down, with all his pain. You know what I mean? All his hurt, all his pain. Backstory stuff I had to just build on my own,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh well.
Yeah, because I didn't read the graphic novels. I didn't really know anything about Bob when I went into the
Okay.
audition. I didn't know he was a middle-aged white guy when I went
Did
into the audition.
did you watch the show before or after, or not
I did
really?
not watch the show before.
Wow.
I initially I auditioned for Morgan.
Okay. Oh wow.
Yeah, I auditioned
Wow.
for
That would
Morgan.
yeah.
And Lenny's great. I mean, love him. But yeah, I auditioned for Morgan. I didn't get it, and to be honest, like that's not really my genre. Like zombies
But
and
seeing that though, I feel like you could have got it. I feel like that could have been your character now. Looking
Morgan.
into yeah, yeah, looking into it, yeah.
Maybe that would have been fun too.
Mm.
I mean, I don't think at the time, because you got to think this was quite a few years ago. I don't think at the time I don't think my look was right
Okay.
at that time. I don't think my look was right at that time. But um, I'm fortunate, that another opportunity came around and I got to play Bob.
Mm.
But I didn't know anything really about the backstory, about the background. And what they wrote for me to do in the audition was just something that they created. It wasn't actually from the show or anything. They
Mm.
just created something. So I just tapped into what I was seeing on the page, which looked like a person who was in pain, who wanted to help people,
Mm.
but for some reason, I think there was someone who he loved, who he wanted to help, who he couldn't help,
Yeah.
and that person ended up dying or something like that. That's what they had written. And so, for me, it was just about trying to tap into that. How would that feel?
Mm. But was it challenging to balance the horror and dark humor in that moment?
Of what? Which moment? The tainted meat stuff, or
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah. Tainted
That's
meat. Yeah.
scene. That specific scene, the tainted meat scene. Um, was it hard? No. See, at that point, I'd already built the character. I'd already built the background. I'd already built the story.
Mm.
They had already built the story. By that time, that was towards Bob's end. So we had already told so much of the Bob story that it wasn't hard at all. It came easily. The hardest part was just that we shot it in the middle of the night. It was like 2 a.m. or something. It was cold. I
Mm.
was sitting around, you know,
Okay.
the, when you're in the elements, see, people think that
You
acting, that
needed you needed the fire on the scene then to keep you warm.
exactly
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but people think it's glamorous. There's nothing glamorous about sitting on the hard ground
Mm.
at 2 a.m. in the morning when it's 20 degrees outside
Wow.
and you're trying to act like it's not.
Wow. It was 2 a.m. That's mental. Yeah, was it a lot of overnight filming, was it? Um,
Yeah, well, the show. It's a lot of night shooting, and you're always in the elements on that show. So you're in the woods,
yeah.
you're in the car, you're always out in the elements, and that it makes it hard. But
Mm.
what it also does is it bonds the cast and the crew together
Mm.
because you're all in the elements together, right? And because you're all suffering the same thing, if it's raining, if it's muddy, if it's whatever it is, if it's too hot, if it's too cold, you're all suffering the same thing.
Mm.
And really like survival.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No,
it really brings you as a cast member really close really quickly to the cast and the crew. We're all in this together and let's survive together. You know what I mean? It was
mm.
a fun experience in that way.
Yeah. What were the hours like throughout the night then? Was it a long recording shift for it?
Well,
Or,
every show it's a 12-hour day
wow.
on most film and TV shows. It's a 12-hour day. So if you're up at 6 a.m., then you're supposed to wrap at 6 a.m. If you start at 6 p.m., then you should wrap by 6 a.m.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a 12-hour schedule.
Wow. I mean, talking more of the tainted meat moment, what was your personal reaction to it, about portraying that scene as well?
Well, I didn't know that it was Dale's actual scene in the graphic novels. I didn't know that it was his scene. This
Mm.
is what happened. The showrunner came to me and he told me, he was like, the character is gonna be killed in this episode. And
Okay.
I am grateful to him for telling me that because I had a family. I have a family. I mean, my kids are grown now, everybody's out of the house. But at that time I had young kids, I had a family, and I was considering moving to Atlanta because, when they hire you as a regular, and a regular generally means you're going to be around for a while. So you're thinking about, my kids were young and I'm like, they're going to have to be in school and all these things. So I am grateful to him for telling me that the character wasn't going to be around,
Yeah.
because then I could, organize my life accordingly. And then he said, so how would you like to go out? Like, how would you like for the character to die, to go out? And I said, whatever it is, just make it, memorable.
Mm.
I just
Yeah.
want to be remembered, make it big, make it something that's memorable. That's all I ask, because I felt like the character, honestly, if I'm being honest, I don't feel like the character was around long enough. I felt like there could have been so much more
Yeah.
to express Bob, especially being an alcoholic, and he could have just shared so much more and gone through so much more and experienced so much more with the crew. So I'm
Mm.
like, well, since it's such a short, he was on for such a short span, I'm like, just make it something memorable.
Mm.
And then I got the script and I saw that it was the tainted meat, and I thought, this is awesome.
Yeah. Wow. And you
you know
made it awesome as well.
Thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. And
Yeah.
I was just like I said, I'm always just trying to do justice to the
Mm,
character, to the part. So yeah, I was like, all right, this is good. And you know, it was written in that he starts laughing at a certain point. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be so much fun to play.
mm. Yeah. No, I mean, I know a lot of people have probably like watched it several times because it's so iconic at the moment. But like honestly, I've been watching that ever since it came out. Like, it's just something about it that moment in the show, and it's like it just really gets you going.
Yeah,
Like,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes,
I mean,
yes. No,
did,
it's
did
a because you know, even though because it's that moment, like it's that situation where you feel like even though he's lost, he's won.
mm, yeah,
You know? And
yeah,
it's like lost, but he's really won because they're the ones who don't realize that they've lost. You know what
mm,
I mean? So it's a victory moment.
yeah.
And who doesn't love a victory moment? You know,
No,
who
of
doesn't love?
course. I mean, do you think Bob's actions in the scene changed the dynamic of Gareth's group?
Um, I
If,
think in the
yeah,
moment, in the moment it did. I don't think later. You know, later what happens happens. But I think in that moment, yeah, they were all freaked out, and it
mm,
affected them. You know, yeah.
mm, yeah, no, of course. I mean, were there ever any moments like filming for Bob that you disagreed on? Were there any scenes that you think wasn't right, apart from him dying, of course?
No,
Although
I
you
like,
did agree with the dying part, didn't you? But because you needed
huh?
that time. I mean, you did agree with the dying part, didn't you? Because you needed that time to your family. But yeah.
No, I did not. I did not want
Ah,
Bob to die in that
okay.
moment.
But it was good. It was a good situation, like you said about your family. I think you covered. But
Well, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, as far as my family, I was just good. What was good was that they told me that it was going to happen.
mm,
So
okay.
then, make the proper, move. Because if I had, let's say they didn't tell me, and then I brought my whole family to Atlanta, and then they
Mm,
killed
yeah. Yeah.
me, I'm like, I just uprooted my whole family, and now and I've heard about these things happening to people.
Mm,
So that's all I'm saying about that. I was not happy about Bob dying because I love being on the show,
yeah. Yeah.
and I to continue to be on the show.
Mm,
Yeah. So I was not happy about Bob dying. But what was your other question? You said
um, where was it?
you said
Oh yeah. Was there ever a moment where you disagreed with how Bob's
oh
story was written or
right,
portrayed? Yeah.
right. No, I
Okay.
love Bob. I loved his story. I loved Bob saying, "Hey, you always you gotta find the good in the bad." He was so optimistic. Yeah, no, I love Bob. I love the character. I love that he was so optimistic, and that's a part of me and who I am.
Mm,
You know, in that way, Bob was like me in that way. Just you got to find the good in the bad, and just all the positive things that he said.
mm,
There's a lot about that is the same way that I feel about things.
yeah.
So I there was nothing really that I disagreed with the way that they wrote Bob.
Mm,
I enjoyed it thoroughly. Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
How did you approach Bob's optimism in such a dark world?
It wasn't hard. We
Yeah.
live in a dark world.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
You kind of said that about, with the self-love a bit, but yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's life is tough. Life is tough. And sometimes, like I said, whether it's real time now in
Mm,
this existence that we live, or if it's in a fictional apocalypse,
mm,
life is tough. And you have to find a way to continue on. You have to find a way to, I think, me anyway, like Bob said, to see the positives and the negatives. I believe in goodness. I believe
mm,
in righteousness. Um, I believe in love.
yeah.
So me believing in these things, and you could tell Bob obviously believed in these things too, but something happened in his world, in his life. Something happened that was so traumatic that it caused him to go down a dark path. And when we catch up with Bob, he's starting to recover, and Sasha helps him with that. But
Mm,
he's starting to recover from that dark path that he went down. I mean, you got to remember, Bob was alone for how long? We don't even know
Yeah, yeah,
before they found him, right? So that would cause somebody. We are people. We need a community, and
yeah,
so when we are alone, that does something to our spirit. You know what I mean? And when you're alone for a long time, that could probably just kill you. Like, who wouldn't want to just commit suicide or something like
mm.
that?
Um,
If you're,
yeah.
Mhm.
In your opinion, how would you have liked Bob to live on? How would you have put his story on the show? To keep him going.
Well, I would have just liked Bob to continue to be that optimistic voice. I mean, the crew constantly came up against challenges, right?
Mm,
They constantly came up against challenges against other crews of people who wanted to do them. I mean, everyone who's watched the show knows the show. So they were
yeah,
constantly just running into opposition, adversities, and I would have just loved for Bob to be around for two reasons. One, to sort of continue to be that positive, optimistic compass
mm,
for everyone, but also to help protect other people.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Um, Bob was a medic, and he was a military man.
yeah,
So there was a lot that could have been done with the character
mm,
that they missed out on. I feel like they did anyway. There was just a lot that could have been done, and I would have loved to stick around to do those things.
mm,
Um, Now, you know what I would do? Honestly, now I would love to do the Bob backstory. Like, we heard about he was with two other groups and then he was alone for a long time. I want to know what Bob was doing during
yeah.
all that.
Okay, like a sequel. Yeah, yeah, like a
Or a
before.
prequel, a
Yeah,
prequel.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the right word actually. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would love to do that,
Mm,
and I would love to see that
mm,
because, what led him down that dark path. Like, how did it all start? Where did it
mm,
happen? What happened?
mm.
All the
Yeah,
way up until they found him. There's a whole lot of stuff there's a whole big story that could be told
yeah,
there. I would love to do that.
yeah. There could be a Bob
Call,
show. Yeah,
call up AMC and tell them you want to see that.
we get it done. Yeah. Do you think though? Do you think Bob would have survived Negan? Do you think he would have survived that story?
Of course, he
Okay.
could have. Yeah, he could have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like everyone was taken out. People survived it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Bob could have been one. Yeah, he could have been one of the ones that survived it. Of
Mm,
course.
mm.
Yeah.
Going back to the tainted meat scene though,
Yep.
did you ever anticipate how iconic it would come? Did you ever think it would
No
be such a
idea.
big deal?
No idea. No idea.
Mm,
No idea. You don't know these things at the time. You just go and you do the work. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Um, Even The Wire, when I did The Wire, I had no idea that it was gonna. As a matter of fact, when I was first shooting in the first season of The Wire, I thought it was a horrible show.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, what is this? Because it was so different. It was
Yeah.
so different from anything that I'd ever seen on television.
Mm,
I was just thinking to myself, what is this show? It's supposed to be a cop show, but there's no chases. Like, nobody's running after the bad guy. Like, I'm like, what
yeah.
is this?
Yeah.
Then I think it was somewhere, maybe halfway through the first season, where I realized this show is special. You
Mm,
know, and with The Walking Dead, it's the same thing. You just go in, you do your work. You have no idea what it's going to become. Hold on one second. I'm
no
sorry.
worries. No, you're all good, mate. Hopefully, I'm not
You
taking all
have
the time.
you have no idea what it's going to become, what people are going to latch on to, what's going to be meaningful for people. You just go in and you do your job. Hope that you did the best that you could. Hope that you told the story the best that you could, and hope that people like it.
Mm,
And so when people come up to me and they go, "Can you please scream tainted meat? Can you say tainted meat?" Or they reach out to me on Cameo and they're like, their favorite show is The Walking Dead. Can you please say something that has tainted meat? Or can you please say, it went the way it was supposed to, or whatever, whatever Bob line. It means so much to me
wow.
because, I work hard at my
Mm,
craft. And when people appreciate it and remember it, that's all I could really ask for.
mm,
You, I mean, second from the paycheck. But
Yeah, of course. I'm sure you had a big payday of that show.
well, I mean, the pay is the pay.
Yeah,
But what's more meaningful, is the response from people when people appreciate it.
yeah, the
That,
character. Yeah.
that's everything. That
Mm.
means, yeah.
Wow. Well, just to say, since I started in 2019, I think I've been asking for a very long time for you to come on the show.
Oh,
So, yeah. So I've been waiting for that video shower you did for a long time to be out
oh
there.
man.
Yeah. It's been crazy to finally get you on, to be fair. So
Well, you got me.
it's
You got
surreal.
me, man. And I'll
Mm.
tell you, I don't do a lot. I remember I read somewhere, someone was asking about me, and a reporter or someone who does interviews, a reporter said, Lawrence Gilliard Jr. doesn't do interviews.
Okay.
I
You get
remember
a lot
reading
of
it.
that then.
And so
Yeah.
yeah, it's tricky. I don't know how to put I'm not a lover of the media
Mm. Okay.
because I know how they can twist things and change things and make
Mm.
people look a certain way. And I know that sometimes for them it's all about just entertainment too.
Mm.
And just, it doesn't have to be the truth necessarily. It just has to sell, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so I try to sometimes I just I've been out of that whole spotlight, and I try to stay away when I can. But
Yeah.
there was something about the ones that I have done. I don't know. It's something about it that just calls me to it. I feel safe,
Okay.
and I feel confident. And I listened to one of your other interviews.
Okay.
Canadian actress who's now on. She was on. Lois and Clark.
Okay. I'm trying to
You
remember
know,
the name now.
you know what
Some
I'm
of my
talking
old
about?
episodes are really bad as well. So,
Well, she
uh,
was really good, and she actually, once I listened to her, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this
yeah.
show. So,
Wow.
you know,
Thank you. We've got to remember the name now because I'm sure she'd be inspired by that, so I can tell her. I'm trying to think who the name is.
what is her name? Her name is she's an Asian Canadian
Oh,
actress,
Yvonne Chapman. Is
Yv-
that her?
Yvonne
Yvonne.
Chapman.
Okay. I'll
Yvonne
send that to
Chapman.
her.
Thank you, Yvonne Chapman. You inspired me to do this
What was
podcast.
it? What was it about? Like, her inspiring you to do it?
Her
Just out of curiosity. Yeah.
just her honesty with the way the industry is. She was talking a lot about how there's ups and downs, and the randomness,
Mm,
of the business,
mm,
and how she just, for her, it's just about, whether she's auditioning, no matter what it is she's doing, she just tries to be in that moment and make it about that moment. It's not about anything else. She's like,
mm.
I'm just having fun when I'm auditioning, and I'm grateful that I get the opportunity to audition. She was just talking about how grateful she is for every moment that she gets in the business. And that meant a lot to me. I was like, that's absolutely what it is. People on the outside looking in, they think everybody's a star and everybody's making a buku ton of money and everybody's always working. And it's just not the case. The truth is, an actor's life is like a temporary worker's life. It's like you're working temp jobs. You work a job, and then that job ends, and then you try to find another job, and then that job ends, then you try to find. So it's
Yeah.
like a temp job. The media makes it look glamorous because they only show us at the on the red carpet, but
Mm,
that's not the reality of it. And so whenever we get an opportunity to act, whether it be an audition, whether it be actually on the stage or actually in front of the camera, we have to appreciate it and be grateful for it because we don't know when the opportunity is going to come again. We just
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Like you asked me earlier, how do I choose my roles?
Simple question, really.
99.9,
Yeah.
yeah, 99.9% of actors don't choose their roles. They
Yeah.
take the opportunities that are available. So
Mm.
anyway, it was things like that in her interview that I was like, you know what? I like that and I'm going to do it too.
So you said you don't like how the media act, but there must be an answer on the Diddy case and situation that you have an opinion on. Um,
I I don't follow these things because, like I said, the media says what
yeah.
they say what they say, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the truth.
Mm,
So I don't know. I mean, it's unfortunate. I don't like to hear about people. I don't like to hear about anyone.
Mm.
I think about people when they're kids.
Yeah.
When you're a
Okay.
kid, you're young, and hopefully you're living a good life, you're in a good family, whatever it is, but you just want to succeed in life and bring joy to people. And kids are so innocent.
Mm.
When you're a kid, at no point of being a kid do you think one day I'm going to be arrested on these charges and go to that's not your thought pattern. Like, you
No.
want to do good in life. So whenever I watch somebody end up in a situation like that, where it's like my heart goes out because I'm like, somewhere along the line, he got misdirected.
Okay.
Somewhere along the
Yeah.
line, he got too powerful, and there were no people there to ground him or her or whoever it is. You know what I mean? They didn't have the right people in their life. They had too many people talking in their ear, talking crap, and they started to believe it, whatever it is. But inside that person was a child who never wanted to be
Mm.
there.
Okay. I like the answer. That's good. That's good. So staying away from that, I've got a couple more questions, like a few personal ones, if you got time, and one more about The Walking Dead, if you
Well,
got
it depends on how personal it is, but let's go.
time. No. What's your favorite Rick Grimes quote?
Rick Grimes?
Yeah, Rick. You know Rick.
Rick, yeah, Rick. My favorite Rick quote. You can't go back, Bob.
Brilliant. That's awesome. Wicked. Have you ever been starstruck meeting another actor or celebrity in your work line,
Um,
or do you stay professional?
oh, I always stay professional.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think if there's one time Goose, what's his name? Holst. No, what's his name? Oh man, he's won a few Oscars. He was in Inglorious Bastards. He played the German. You know what I'm thinking of?
I think
I can't
so.
think of I can't think of his name right now. One day, I was in London and he walked past me in London and I freaked out. I didn't say anything to him, but I was like, "Oh my God, that's."
It's just because you don't know if it's actually them or not, in it at the time. It's like, well, that's for me anyway.
I knew it was him, but I didn't. I freaked out because I'm like, "Oh man!" And then for like the rest of I think half the day, I was like, "I can't believe I just walked by him."
Mm.
I don't generally become starstruck.
Yeah.
Um, I Yeah, I mean, if I'm in the room with other actors, I'm always impressed. And for me, it's like this: when I'm in a room with other actors that I love their work, I'm always just like, I can't believe I'm here. Like
Mm.
someone thought that I was in the same, in the same category or level with these people that they invited me to be here with them. I'm
Mm.
like, so I guess I'm starstruck by everybody.
Yeah. Nice comment. That's a good response. That's
I'm
good.
starstruck by everyone.
That's good. I like that. Um, what's the most random or unusual skill you've learned from a role, do you think?
From who? From what?
From a role, from like an acting role.
Oh, a
Yeah.
skill that I learned from a role?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Unusual one.
An unusual skill
Yeah,
that I learned from a role?
yeah.
Um, let me see. I did a TV show called The Deuce, and I played a cop, and I learned how to twirl the police baton.
Okay.
Like it takes place in the '60s, and back then the police officers used to walk the beat. They used to
Mm,
walk the streets, and they would carry these batons, these the bat things made out of wood, and they were attached to a rope,
mm.
and they would walk and they would twirl them in a certain kind of way using the rope. So
Well,
yeah, I learned how to do that.
I bet that took a few tries. That's fun. You could, if you could direct a movie about your own life, who would you cast to play you?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of the younger actors that are out nowadays. I don't I don't really know them or know their work.
Mm,
So I don't really know a lot of the young cats.
okay.
I need to watch more, watch more TV and movies and and learn about some of the new cats and see what they're doing. But that's a good question. I really don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to make it fun, so
I
I'm
mean,
trying to make
and
it
it depends
lighthearted.
on what part of my life, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would think
I mean, it
like
could
right
be any, I
now,
guess.
the
Mm.
beginning, yeah, all the way through to like, present day or whatever, or whenever, whenever we decide to cut it off. But I don't I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know. That's a good question.
Is there any acting role or job that you have played that you didn't feel get the recognition it deserved? Um,
Hmm. That I didn't feel got the recognition that it deserved. I think, yeah, I do. I think that although he gets a D'Angelo Barksdale on The Wire, he gets a lot of love, but I think it could have been more.
yeah. Okay. Short and sweet. I like that.
I think it could have
Yeah.
been more.
Okay. And a couple more questions. What advice would you give to people wanting to be an actor now? And, what advice would you give to people just living in the world as we are?
So the actors and then just people living in
Yeah.
today's world.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question to actors, things have changed so much since when I started and came out the gate. It's a whole different world. Like I don't even really know where to begin aside from this. Train, study, and learn your craft. Um, it's gonna help you to do that. First of all, you'll be around like-minded people, and it's good to be around other artists. It feeds you as an artist to be around other artists. Um, but also when you really train and you learn your craft, it will help you in the future. There's often so many times where you're doing a role or you're, on stage, you're doing a part or whatever, and you run into roadblocks and you don't know what to do to get beyond the roadblocks. The more you train and put tools in your toolbox, the more it's going to help you to know what to do when you run into the roadblocks. So I would just say, if you're a young actor or out there, train, learn, put tools in your toolbox, and it just never stop learning. Always, just keep working. Just keep working. Sam Jackson said to me once too. He was like, "Work. Just keep working. Work begets work. So just keep working. There's nothing too small. There's nothing too big. You can do the biggest role, and the movie doesn't even come out.
Mm.
You could do a small role where you only do 3 scenes. Judy Dench, and Shakespeare in Love, small role, 3 scenes. She wins an Oscar. So
Yeah. It doesn't matter how big the job is.
it
Yeah.
doesn't matter how big or small. Just work. That's what I say to young actors. But I say to people living in the world today, spread love.
Mm.
Spread love, people. We need it. We need love. We all know that, things are crazy right now. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. It doesn't matter what continent you're on in this world. Things are crazy. There's a lot of hate. There's a lot of ignorance. Um, all the things, all the things that don't help. So I would say if you're listening to this, try to just spread love every day. Be a good person every day. Forgive every day. Um, Share every day. Uh, yes. Um, that's it, people. That's it.
Amazing.
That's it. Man, you know what? Me as Lawrence and as Bob, I'm gonna be there. Just being the optimistic me that I am, and always trying to take the good out of the bad.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Everyone needs to hear it. Like, what I mean? It doesn't matter who it is. Everyone
Yeah,
needs to hear it at the right time, and it will always hit them at the right time. Um, so yeah, thank you.
you're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me as well. It's been amazing talking.
You
It's
got it, man. Thank you for having me
yeah,
on the show. I'm glad that you finally got me.
yep.